One more thing I would like to share that we are going Facebook live also with this webinar. Like this webinar is also live on Facebook. It's on live with the Kishore Chowdhary's page and also on my page over the Facebook. So henceforth, all the webinars which will be conducted through Dear Azure, it will go Facebook live also. So you can very well share it from there too. Just to give a small brief, as you all know about Dear Azure, it's over the screen also. It's an online community for learning and growing with Microsoft Azure. And we are trying to conduct free webinars every weekend. We are also in plan of having a meetup in Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, and we do have some like technical videos with respect to Azure, with respect to all the comparative clouds over the YouTube channel. And today our topic is again the Azure virtual machines, but it will revolve around Linux. Yesterday we have covered the Windows, and we still have, if you still have some doubts or concerns, we will try to get it solved today. Facebook link, it's just you have to type as fb.com/. I will just put it in chat window. fb.com/Kasam S official. So that's my fan Facebook page where it's going live right now. So today's speaker is Kishore Chowdary. He's an C# Corner MVP. He's a lead training associate at CodeSizzler. And I will not take much time. I will just hand over to Kishore.
Yep, thanks for that.
Yeah, Kishore, give me a second. I will just hand over the screen to you.
Yeah.
So it's Kishore now. Thank you. And before that, please guys go on mute. I request you all. It may happen sometimes, like it by mistakenly it gets unmute, but that's fine. But please try to see like it's you are on mute so that others should not get a disturbance because of that. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Hello everyone, and as Kasam introduced me, the same Kishore Chowdary again, and today we are going to try to play a little with our Azure virtual machines, and today it's going to be the Linux environment. So no much slides. The slides will be very less, so we're not going to go in lot many slides. We'll just continue with where we left off yesterday. So yesterday we left off somewhere in here. We were speaking about the SSH key pair service and why it is and how to use it. So let's imagine about the people who are very new to the Linux environment. So people who are very new to Linux, what we do, we use our username and password to log in into the virtual machines. That is what we do. And the same goes for the Linux, you guys might think. But the point is in Linux, right? You don't use the things like the usernames and passwords. You do use the usernames, but rather than using passwords, they go for something called SSH public key pair, which is basically a kind of private and public key concept, where while creating a machine, you use your public key and you give to the machine. And once after your machine has been deployed, next time when you try to log in into the machine, you're going to make use of the private key and you will be proving that you're the authenticated person. So you're the owner for whatever the thing that you're using. So that's the concept. So that is why we are focusing on something called SSH key pair in here. But apart from that, the rest of the technical things like why to use a VM and when to use a VM, or the things like advantages and the features, both the Linux and the Windows machines have the same concept. So nothing in much in terms of difference. Now let's very quickly go and make a quick demo for creating a Windows, that is a Linux virtual machine. So I'll just take you into my Azure portal. So here is the Azure portal. So I guess all of you would have already tried the yesterday's demo, and if in case you don't have any, just go try it, give a try for that. So let's try creating our virtual machine. You can simply go to this create a resource, and then you can just go to the compute part in here, and here you can find a lot of virtual machines, a lot of different types of virtual machines. So for our scenario, let us just try with the Ubuntu server. So I'm choosing this, and now all you need to do in here is just give a name for this machine. So I name this as Linux VM, and hard disk type, let it be HDD, and in the place of username I'm going to give an username something called Kishore. So now here I have two options. One option is that I can just go for this password in here, then I can simply give a password and confirm the password and I can work with it. But in general Linux, it's not gonna get created in terms of usernames and passwords. So they go for this SSH public key and private key pairs. So now let's try in the same traditional way. Let's give it a try by creating an SSH key pair. So to do that, all you need to do is go to something like this, something like download putty. Just go to something like this. So all you need to do is go to the website like www.putty.org. Someone is making some disturbances in the noise and in the channel. Could you please mute yourself? So just go to this putty.org. I'm sending it via chat. So here in the putty, you can simply just download this one by clicking in here, and you will get two tools installed for you. One will be putty key generator, where you can use it for generating the private and public keys, and another one is going to be a putty where you can connect to the Linux environment. So let's make it happen. You just click on this URL and you just download the putty setup. You can go there and you can just download the installer and you can install it. Who is that? Could you please mute yourself? So please mute yourself. I don't know who is it. Yeah, Sai Kiran, could you mute yourself? Yep, thanks for that. So now just go to start and find something called putty. So you will have two different applications like this. One will be putty keygen and another one is going to be putty. So let's click on this. So let us click on this putty gen. I'm just clicking on it, and let's try to generate a key first. So here in this window, you can just click on this generate button, and all you need to do is just move your mouse inside the following window everywhere, so that the mouse movements that you make, they will help you to generate a public key for you. So I'm just making movement of my mouse. So here it goes, and it's done. So now if you look at this, I have a public key that got generated. So simply I'll just select this one and I can use it in the in the in the demo. But before that, just make sure to save this private key. So there is an option called save private key in here. Just click on this and choose yes, and please save that private key. So that is just because of the reason that if you have a private key, only then you can sign in. It is same as giving a username and password to sign in into your machine. So if there is no private key, then it's not possible for you to sign in. Just make sure about it. So once after you generate a key and save it, just paste the public key in here. So public key is this one. Okay, so public key is something that you get in here. The keystroke that you would have made now, for that you will be receiving a kind of key like this. This one is called your public key. So copy that and then paste that inside your SSH key pair. And the rest of the settings I already spoke about this. So let's create a new resource group. I'll name this as Linux and I'll go down, let it be Central India, and I'll click on OK. So now if you go to the sizes of your virtual machines, you have different available sizes. So basically in here, right, this is the one which will decide the configuration that you're gonna get and the price that you're gonna spend. So I will go for something which will be optional and additional one for my usage. So I'll go and choose something called this one, DS11 V2 Promo, which has 14 GB of RAM and 8 data disk. So it's an SSD one. Let it be. I'm choosing it. Just for demo, I'm doing it. As soon as I'll be deleting it soon, so I chosen it. Now in the place of settings and everything, the same thing which I said yesterday, you can leave it as it is. You can simply go and add a network security group. This is the important point in the Linux environment as well. So if you don't add a network security group to allow you to make an SSH connectivity, then you will not be able to log in into a virtual machine. So keep that in mind. So just click on this advanced button in here. Then you can click on this Linux VM-NSG. So if you see here, you would have got a default network security group which would have been created, where there would be a default TCP port which would be opened through the port number 22. So this is the port number which will be used in our Linux machines when you try to connect to internet. So just click on OK, and now that's all. So you just connect it. Simply scroll down and disable this auto shutdown feature and then the boot diagnostics and everything which are not required. Click on OK, and you can simply go and click on OK at the last, that is create at the last, so that your VM will get created. So this is a Linux VM again. So here by default you don't have any option to connect to the Linux VM in graphical user interface. So that is not possible here. But if you like to make a connectivity to the VM through the graphical user interface, you can even do that. But for that you have to install a few required packages which will make your environment to become the GUI one. So let's just check it out for a while where it can complete its task. So it doesn't take too much time. So do post any questions if you have any in this gap. Any queries from your end? So it's going on. Let's check the deployment option. Just click on this deployment that is going on. All right. So there is a query to describe each and every step that we have did while creating a VM. So let's brief it out. So what we did, we just began with creation of this one. That is, we just created. Okay, I can just show that in here itself. So we began by going to something called create a resource. So we'll just go to this create a resource first in the portal, and then we are going to just make use of that create a resource service, and we are just going to find out as a resource in here. So here are resources computer, which is compute environment in cloud. So if you get in there, here you can find your virtual machines. So I chosen this Windows, I chosen this Ubuntu server here. So I got into it. So once we get into this machines, right, what happens here? You just have to give the credentials like username and password. So if it is a Linux machine, you have to give the credentials like the SSH keypads and everything, and the rest will be like the other settings which you should go on. And once you complete it, then your task is done. So I just got a question here. So that is why by default we are not allowed to have a GUI in this Linux environment. So that's the specialty of Linux actually. So basically, Linux environment is designed for the purpose like you can work inside it without actually accessing it. You can just use the commands and you can directly work with it. So that's the major design with it. But again, if you want a GUI, you can just import some packages for it, and Linux will support for the GUI as well. And there is a question: can we have shared resources like multiple network interface cards and multiple security groups? So here, network interface card cannot be shared, but again, for a single VM, you can have multiple network interface cards. So it is possible. For a VM, you can use two or more network interface cards, but not a single interface card can be used for more virtual machines. That's one thing. And if you want to implement network security groups in multiple numbers, then you need to go for something called virtual network, in which you can implement multiple subnets so that you will be able to have multiple network security groups. So that is a part of this entire system. Okay. I guess that is clear. Yep. So now coming back in here. So if you see here, you have completed the complete deployment. Now just click on this connect button in here. So look at this. You can make an Linux connectivity through the SSH. And if you like to make a remote desktop protocol, you can do that. But as I said, you have to use a few settings for it. So I'll share you those settings in the later part. So that is a part of the game in here. So now let's try to go find out something, that is how to connect to this machine. So here I have my IP address, my public IP address. Let me copy this, and now I'll go to start, and I'll find something called putty again, but this time it's not putty gen, but it's going to be the putty, just putty. So this is a tool through which you will be able to make a connection between you and your virtual machines. So let's paste that IP address which we copied in there. So I'm saying that this is my host, which is actually in the following public IP address, and I'll access my host via this. And the port number that I gave in here is going to be 22. So I'll be using this port number, and I'm just going to connect to my Linux machine. So that is okay. Now what about the authentication? So where can I give the username and password? So in putty, you can give your private key as an authentication. So what you have to do, in the left side, you have something called connection. So below that, if you see, there is something called SSH. Just click on it and just expand it down. So there you can find something called auth, which is authentication. So clearly look at it. You just go to connections. Under connections, there is something called SSH, and under SSH, you have something called authentication. So here you get the following window. Just click on the browse button and go choose the private key that you would have saved in your machine. Just choose that private key. So it has been selected now. I'll simply click on this open button. So it will just ask for the host caching for registry. Just click on yes. So I'll go and give my username, and I'll hit on enter. So I have logged in into my Linux machine. So now I can use my terminal commands, and I can go host any resources, create containers, or whatever it is. I can do that. So that's a part of connecting to your Linux machine by using the putty. But again, if you want a GUI, I'll share the document at the last. Just go through that. So there is a question: what if in case I missed my private key? Then how come I can log in inside? So very simple. In this same page which I am on now, just scroll down, and if you go down, there is something called reset password. Just click on that. So here you can just reset your SSH public key if you have. So just give a new username, give new public key, and then reset. Use the private key and log in into your machine. Yep. So that's fine. Now this was about creating a Linux machine and logging into it and doing your task. Now I just want to share a few thoughts about this. So now, how come if it is a Linux machine, how come I'm gonna just go and host a resource into it? So that is, if it is a Windows machine, I will have my GUI. I'll go and use that GUI and I'll go host the resources. But if it is a Linux machine, how I'm going to do that? How, in the sense, you will just think about the terminal where you will write your pieces of codes and you are going to execute it. But what if you want to execute some huge task? What if you want to do some different activities? So for that, again, you have some feature called Azure CLI, and also you have something like Node.js as well. So you can use these services for connecting to your machines. So now let's do one thing. Let's just come back to our slides and we have something to be discussed. And then let's go back there. So here it is. So now there is something like identifying the workloads that you can deploy in Azure. So workload is something which is a kind of activity or a work pressure that you're going to implement inside a machine. So it can be Windows or a Linux machine. So yesterday in Windows, we implemented a workload like hosting an IIS web server. So we were able to access that Windows machine using its public IP address. So literally it is a kind of workload. Now same way in here, we can make use of Linux machine and we can try to put a workload in it. But before that, basically what is a workload? So workload can be anything. So it can be a software that is installed inside your machine, or it can be any computational activity that is getting inside in your machine, or it can be a game that runs inside your machine, or a website which runs inside, or anything, any task that you compute or do inside a virtual machine, that is actually called your workload. So now, how you can do that workloads, or what are the types of workloads? There are multiple types of workloads. So you can use a Windows virtual machine which is of basic size for hosting your websites into it, like which we did yesterday, the IIS web service. Or you can use some machines which are of higher configuration that support for the activities like executing the big data computational tasks, or a data warehousing concept, or a machine learning, or you can even implement some Hadoop clusters using the virtual machines. So those kind of things. So even the small softwares like an antivirus software or any other softwares that you include in your machine, even they are called as workloads. So basically these workloads, they either help you to develop something, or they I mean like those workloads can also be a kind of data that you put in your VM. So for example, a Visual Studio IDE, which is for development, even if you develop an application using it, still it is a workload that is running inside a virtual machine. So these are some different things that a virtual machine is capable of handling and maintaining. So let's have a look over something that is running Windows or Linux workloads. So let's try with the Linux workloads, but there is a small architectural example that I have now. So here there are different workloads like a single VM workload. So for example, I can have a virtual machine in which that virtual machine is actually relying on Azure cloud, where it is inside a virtual network again. So I could have a website or a web server, or any other application hosted inside it, and I can make a request to that machine and I can access that service inside it. So that's called a single VM load, that is workload, single VM workload. Now, what about other kind of workloads like the load balancer workload? So if you look at the second architecture in the same diagram, the load balancer VMs, It is a scenario where you are balancing the load between two or more virtual machines in an environment. So for example, let's imagine about your Amazon shopping site. If you know very well, Amazon is a global shopping market. So you can purchase everything you want in there in their portal from anywhere in the world, which means they are globally present. So now when I go and Google something like Amazon.com, I will be I will be routed into the Indian data center since I'm in India. If in case I go and Google the same thing from US, then I'll be routed into the US website of Amazon. So how this happens? That's going to make use of a resource called traffic manager. So that is secondary part. But again, I'm speaking about one more internal activity here. This website, it is available 24/7. So there is no downtime for the website, or at any time you access it, you get a response from it. So how does that happen? So that is where you come with some concept called as this load balancer, where you will have two or more virtual machines that will be having the same website running inside it. So the load balancer, it will balance the incoming load between those virtual machines, and it will make sure that you will get the website all the time. So next, if you look the third one, the entire application. So it's same the load balancer kind of concept, but you have nested load balancers. So you have a load balancer, and behind that load balancer you have VMs, and the request that comes out of that virtual machine, it will again be routed into another load balancer, again to the VMs, and again the request that comes out of the VM, it will be routed into another load balancer. So this is called a nested load balancing. So this is a workload again. And if you look at the last one, that is multi-region applications. So in this environment, if you see, we have implemented a workload where we have a load balancer, a traffic manager, and a VPN gateway that is connected. So traffic manager was the example that I said previously. Basically, the traffic manager, it will help you in routing the traffic between different regions depending upon some algorithms. As I said, the example of same Amazon shopping site. So there they would have used an algorithm like geographic routing, where user request will be checked based upon the geography from where they are making a request, and the load will be balanced accordingly. So these are kind of workloads now. So different workloads. Not only these, there are many workloads that you can impose into your machine. But now let's look into a Linux solution as a workload. So this is a repository where I have taken a small JSON file, which is going to implement a workload. So the workload will be like you are going to create a virtual network and a subnet inside the virtual network through named as web. So this is the workload that we are going to deploy now. And you will also implement the network security group, where one will allow you to make an SSH connectivity to the VM, and also you can make an HTTP request into the virtual machine. And number three, the VM which you are going to use is going to be the Ubuntu 16.04.3 version, and followed by that, this custom script, right, it is going to deploy an Apache server into the Ubuntu virtual machine, and it's going to format it with two data disks. So in simple words, we are going to host an Apache server as a workload into the virtual machine, and when we go and try to access the IP address of your VM, you get response from an Apache server. So now let's have a quick demo on running our workload. So here what we are going to do, like yesterday, we are not going to do something from the portal, but let's try this one in different way. So I guess I have a link for it. No, it's not here. So where is it? Just I had a link to share with you people for the Linux workloads. So I'm just trying to take it out. So one sec, I'll just give you the link in which you can just find the related documents for this session which I'm going to do now. That is this specific module that I'm going to do now. So I'll just find that one. So here it is. I'm just sharing it. So I'm just sending the same in the chat. Just have a look over the same. You can just find some files regarding to this, and you can just try downloading those files, which I'm going to use for the demo now. So I'll just open those files in my PC as well. So I have them in here. So I'll just go to PC. So here, once you download the workloads that I gave, that is the link I gave, in which if you download it, there will be two files. One will be commands for your workloads, and another will be something like a JSON file, a single VM workload JSON file. Please open this one, this two commands, I mean like the file name with commands. So there, if you see, there is something like Node.js commands and everything. So just, I want you to go to the following URL, just copy this and do browse it down. So I have shared it via link, so you can just take the same. So from this one, you can just download the Windows Azure CLI. Okay, you just download the Windows Azure CLI, and it's command line interface that you need to work with the workloads that we are going to put in by making use of Azure CLI, the command line interface, basically something like your bash. So that is the reason I'm asking you to install it. Same way, just go to this node.js, that is node.js org, and download the node.js installer from here, because we are going to use some node.js scripts to execute our task now. So just download this one from here. So you can just download it and install it. So in that you get an option called npm package. So while installing it, you will be able to have a look. So it will ask you for what kind of installation you have to do. Just make sure to choose something called npm package in there. So I guess I'll just show you that. I'll just show that step alone. So just getting downloaded. So Azure CLI, you can just install it, nothing specific settings in it. Simply you can just install it and it will get done. But this Node.js installation, right, you just need to make some custom settings in it. So I'll just show that one alone. It's completed. So while installing, just make sure that there is a package which will be asked, something called node.js packages or npm packages. Please make sure to install that specific package alone, and the rest of the thing is all will automatically get done. So it's taking a lot of time, I guess. Why, I don't know. It's downloaded. Okay, let it get done and it will come automatically. So once after we complete the download, right? So you have something like a github.com, something like a link for a GitHub repository. So if you want to find some workloads regarding to the architectures of workloads, that is the VM workloads, just get into this. You can find a lot of workloads regarding to the VMs in here. Just use them, and you can simply use these for implementing some workloads for your virtual machines. So here we are going to use a workload which is inside this virtual machine, which is a single VM workload in here, which is going to be this one. That is a Linux workload, which is here. So this is the one which you are going to use now. This is the one which you are going to implement now. So I have just shared the same thing with all of you in the folder itself, in the OneDrive link itself. The single VM workload is directly given. So simply we can execute it. So I'll just show this installation of this one. So here in this install window, somewhere in the middle, it will be showing you something like what package you want to install. Just make sure that you choose node.js in there. That is the only thing you want to do, because when you go and find something called this, that is node.js command prompt, you will get something like this. So just make sure to do this, only this one. So now in here, in the commands that you got, okay, you just have to do few things. So just go to your node.js command prompt like this, and here you can simply just run this command, which is going to create a directory called npm for you. So there is a directory that is already available in my machine, so I'll just get into the directory. So I'm inside that. Now you just get into that as these commands explained in here. Then you can just make use of this specific npm install command for the purpose of installing the npm packages. So basically this one, it's going to install some npm packages that are actually required to work with a virtual machine, that is an Azure environment. So this will just take some time, and it will just simply install a few npm packages that are required for you to work. So let's wait for it. So once after it is done, it is all about deploying your workload into the machine. So here for that, you have to do few settings. So I'll show you. So here there is something like AZBB, which is Azure deployment command for you. So here there is a small hyphen s, which is speaking about the subscription. So what you have to do in the following file that I gave, just replace this specific value in here with your own subscription. So that will be your first task. Then task number 2, you have hyphen G, which speaks about the resource group. So here just replace this name with the name of your resource group in which you like to deploy the workload. And third one, at which location you are trying to implement. So give the location of that resource group, or you can give any other location where you like to implement that workload. And number 4, you have something like single hyphen vm hyphen v2.json. So what you need to do, just go to the folder that you could have used. Just copy the folder path where you have that single VM workload, copy it, come back in here and paste it in here, and just make sure that you give the exact path of it. So it's single VM workload.json. So I guess that is the name, single VM workload.json. So that's all. Once you do this, you're all set to go. So here, I guess I don't have a resource group, so I'll just simply create one resource group. So just click on this add button in here to add a resource group, and I'll add a resource group something like CodeSizzler hyphen RG, and I'll create it somewhere in South India, and I'll just click on create. So now my resource group was got created here, so I have it. So now I'll just give this resource group name inside the piece of code that I'm going to execute. So I'm copying it. So in the place of this resource group, I'll just replace with my resource group. So that is ready. Now we are all set to do it. So if you check it in here, the entire installation is completed. So if you see, the package has been updated and everything has been implemented. Now all you need to do is to make sure that the subscription details, the resource group name and the location, everything is given perfectly. Now simply copy this line, go here and paste this and hit on enter. So this will begin to execute your workload. So if everything is perfectly given, including the path and the file, so it will get perfectly executed. So one sec. Yeah, so I forgot to say about one more important thing in here. So let's just check it out. So just go to the single VM workload that I gave you, and inside this, if you scroll down, somewhere in here you will find the username and password. So here it is. Here is the username and password. In the place of this admin username, please give your username. That is, I am going to give my username as Kishore, and for public key, I'll just go to my Putijan again. I'll take a public key that I already created, and I'm just going to paste this one here. So don't worry about the size that you're getting in here. Simply paste your public key exactly as it is in middle of those double quotes and just save that. So this is the one setting which I missed now. Make sure to give it because you want to give your username and password in there. So we gave it. Now all you need to do is just come in here. That is, just go to this one, rerun the command, and that's all. Your deployment will begin now. So it started to execute. So if you check inside your resource group, right, in a while you will get a VM, which is a Linux VM. Along with the Linux VM, it would have had an Apache server that is implemented inside it. So it is going on. It will take a few minutes of time to get done. So that's that's the demo part for today. You can post any queries if you have. So once this gets over, I'll show you the workload that we have implemented into it. Okay, there is a question: Can we manage snapshot of Linux VM and images encrypted? Yeah, you can manage your Linux VM snapshots and images, but encrypted in the sense like uh, Azure supports you with all those features as well. So basically, just go to all services in this and search for something like images. So here you have something called my image. Oh, I'm sorry for that. It's here it is. You have something like images. So here you can find the images that you would have defined by yourself, customized images, or you can just go to this inside this. Here you can see the images that you would have created or saved snapshots will be available in here. So if you want, you can keep them securely in here and you can even encrypt them. Any more questions? So there is an error. The client don't have authorization to Microsoft. Okay. Yep. So I guess I didn't log in into Azure. Mm, So we just missed one more thing in here. I'm sorry for that. So just run a command in here before executing the above task. Just write a command something like AZ space LOGIN. So this is because I didn't log in into my Azure account, so I don't have an access to execute the task. So just run the command like I did now. Just run the something like AZ space login. This will open a browser for you. You can just simply go there and sign in into your account, and that's all. Now you're all set. You can directly execute your task inside this. So once it is going to redirect in here, you will be able to get your job done. So let's wait for a few seconds. So there is a question: Will you be showing us all the architectures? I will show all the architectures in the future sessions for sure. So right now it's not possible, but in the future sessions I'll try to implement the load balancer, the traffic manager, and the load balancer with traffic manager and everything for sure. So now this will work out.
Hi Kishore, I have a
Yeah,
very small basic question.
yeah,
It's regarding Azure Architect. See,
okay.
uh, in virtualization, normally we will do virtualization on any operating system or any hardware. For that, we will use some media or kind of any OS. If you take in case of VMware, we'll use ESX as a mediator between our workloads and the hardware. So, do you
Okay.
have any specific hypervisor in between the hardware and the what we are doing everything? I mean, what exactly? It's kind of multiple codes, or it any particular hypervisor using in between this?
This concept you are asking, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, correct.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll just open that workload and I'll explain you. So just see this. We are just using a GitHub schema in here, and if you look at clearly, it's nothing but I'm just saying go create these resources. That's all. There is no mediator in between the script and the cloud or something. So basically, your cloud it works with a concept called REST API call, where that REST API call is capable of creating whatever the resource that you make a call to create. So this following pieces of code which we are used in here, we call it as JSON script. So what we did in here, in these scripts, right, we have simply said like, I want to create a storage account. I want to create a virtual network. I want to create a network security group. I want to create a virtual machine. So that's what we said in here. So you said that these are all the configurations for my entire infrastructure, and this is the service that comes inside it. So you just completely defined everything in here, and right now here I use something like this, right? This is actually a Node.js command prompt. Since it is a Linux environment, I just thought of showing it via the Node.js environment, nothing else. So here, what it is going to do, it's going to simply execute your workload, whatever we have defined in this commands. So there is no mediator between or there is no hypervisor in here. So simply you are defining whatever the thing that you want in here, and this piece of execution which you did, it's going to make a REST API request into this Azure subscription, since I have already logged in into this specific Azure subscription using a command in here. So if I go up, so here it is. I logged in into my Azure account, right? So that is the reason. So now I have an access to my subscription. So I'm sending that script with all the configurations to saying that go create this service in cloud. So this is the basic concept which generally happen with ARM templates again. So you can use JSON scripts, or you can even use PowerShell scripts and deploy your resources. So there is no mediator. Did I clear your doubt?
I believe I have put my question in wrong way. I'm not asking about this workload. See, we'll have Azure data centers everywhere, right? So
Yeah,
we are building everything on Azure data centers, right?
yeah,
So, but we are not going directly on the hardware, right? So
yeah,
for that hardware, do we have any mediator?
yeah. They
Yeah.
have operating systems specifically in there. So an operating system which is for entire data center. So that operating system will manage the entire data center. So you are not going to, for example, when you create a VM, you are not going on creating which hardware it is going to be and which network it is going to be. So you are just giving the configurations alone. So the operating system, which is centralized one for that entire data center, it will decide which hardware resource can be associated and allocated for you. So it is going to manage everything.
So you meant to say we have OS there.
Yeah, we have a voice.
Okay,
Entirely we
fine.
have a voice.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I guess this is still running. Let's go and give a refresh in here in the resource group. So CodeSizzler RG. So if you see here, my resources are getting created one by one. So Linux machine will be done in a while. So someone asked me for a PowerShell script for creating a VM, I guess. Are you there in the session now? The one who asked me yesterday?
You can still answer, Kishore. I believe you will
Yeah.
be looking, viewing into the recorded session later, or it will be
Okay.
an answer for everyone.
Yep. I'll just share you a doc now. So I have already prepared the script, but it's already 12:20. So I'll just share you the doc which holds all the code for working with PowerShell. So deploy VM PowerShell. So here it is, a clear document which speaks about how to deploy a virtual machine via PowerShell. So just go through this. It will give you answer. So what is that? It is good if you share us the link for PowerShell commandlets. So I shared it, I guess, Arun. Just check it out. So this link I gave you, it holds all the commandlets for all the services in Azure Cloud, not only for virtual machines. If you just go little back for commandlets, you can just find all. So just share you one more link. PowerShell. PowerShell commands DOCS. So here is a documentation which speaks about all PowerShell commandlets for Azure, for all other services. You just have a look over it. So now it's done, I guess. Okay, still it is going on. So here it is. We have our Linux VM1 with NIC, the network security group with 3 data disks and a public IP address. Let's try to get into the VM. So just see it's getting created. Now once after it's completely created, let's go Google the IP address of the VM. So it is still going on. So let's give it a try. I'll just paste it here. So if you see, I'll not be getting any proper response. It will be not working fine. So let me just close these. So this is a workload which will take some time to get completed. So we need to wait. No other go. So I guess it's done for now. The VM has been deployed now. So I'm just waiting for this commandlet to get completed so that I can show you the same. So just let's wait for that to get done. So any more questions, any more queries? So I'll just share this one, the last slide which I wanted to show. So
Yeah,
yes,
Kishore,
you
I
can
have
reach
one
me out.
question.
Yeah, please tell me.
Yeah, I was just missed by yesterday's session. I just went it through the YouTube link. I have a query. Like we have deployed in a region called South India.
Yeah.
If something goes on this region, can we bring a VM up on the other region in the same time?
Yes, you can do that. So for that, you have the backup and replication policies available in our virtual machines. So we can use those things and we can do that. So we need to implement those activities separately. So that is where your availability zone comes in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So you mean to say, based on the availability zones, we would have high availability setup on the virtual machines which we have created.
exactly. So availability set is there, and we also have availability zones based on the scenario that we are
Yeah.
going to work. It is going to implement it.
And also, will that be charged for both the things? Like suppose,
Uh,
will there be a VM replicated in the other region also?
no, not the VM, but the storage account of the VM will get replicated. So the settings will always be available, so not an issue. But the data that you maintain inside the
Okay.
VM will be replicated. So with that set, with that database or with that storage account, you can simply make your job done.
Okay. Only the thing is like they will charge for the storage.
Yeah, storage is enough for you to replicate the entire VM. So I can simply use the same storage somewhere else, and I can fire up a VM, and I'll get the same set of data and everything.
Oh, okay. Okay. If we have SQL databases deployed in the virtual machine, during the downtime or if the region goes down, how will we manage that?
So basically, the replication, right, it happens at a time difference of 1 or 2 seconds to the maximum. That is,
Okay.
I have a data center in South India and I have replications in some other places. So this replications, it take place at a time interval. I mean, like it gets synchronized just at a time gap of 2 or 3 seconds, a maximum of 3 seconds. So
Okay.
whatever the data I put in now, the data will get replicated in the rest of the data centers in just 3 more seconds. So now
Okay.
you can just simply go and take the data back. So that is possible. And you also have something like Azure site recoveries is also available for you. So these kind of
Okay.
things now, backup and site recovery also, you can use this and you can work. But there are multiple options for you for the data backup in Azure. But the best and the optimal solution will be your replication. And the reason is that the data loss will be very less in it.
Okay. Fine. Fine.
Yep.
Fine. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Sure,
So
I
answer
have.
that.
Yeah.
Yep. Tell me, please.
So Kishore,
Yeah.
uh, I'm getting one question over here. I'd like to put it up. So, is there any decisive factor? Like suppose we are starting up with creating a virtual machines in Azure.
Okay.
So how we should decide whether we want to go for Windows or we should go for Linux, and in a very short time, like in a small pointers or one liners.
Um,
What could be the decisive factor to go for this Windows or Linux?
if you don't like to go and use terminal, or if you don't like to go and sit and write the piece of commands, right, then you can go for Windows. But you like writing terminal commands, you can go for Linux. But again, if you are good in some kind of programming, if you are good in some Windows environment, then Windows will be a best option for you. If you are in good in Linux environment, Linux will be a best. But pricing tier and everything is common for both. So pricing doesn't affect in here. But one point which I can say is that it is completely based upon your knowledge. So both your Windows and Linux, they are literally supported now by Microsoft in the same way. So they have provided all the available programming features which you can use to implement your environment. So it is not like in Linux or Windows there will be some limitations. So both have same advanced functionalities and features. So you can simply use them.
So, but in for Windows, we do have the license features, right? If we already have a license, we can put in up for getting that 49% discount.
But
For
in
creating the
Linux,
Linux,
we don't want to we will not be charged for OS in the Linux, because
right?
Linux OS
So
always
there will be a cost factor, right? You said like both the pricing doesn't matter, or like the pricings are very much
the cost
similar. So
the cost
yeah,
factor will be at, like very minimal, not too much for the OS or
okay,
something, just a minimal amount.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. So, but for the Linux also, it applies the same, like for like stopping and for shutting
yeah, yeah,
down,
yeah.
that
The
charges
infra
and
part,
everything.
the infra part is in common, same for all the services, the infrastructure
Okay,
and the hardware part.
okay.
So I guess
So
it's
like the
taking a lot of
functional
time.
implementations and everything are same
Yeah,
across. It's
exactly,
just we
exactly.
need to go with the environment. How
Yeah,
ease we are with the environment, we need to go for it, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So I'll
Anything
just
with respect to any technology stack we are using for an application, so that we should go for Windows or like
yeah.
for LAMP
Uh,
sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for LAMP servers, or in the case of the Kubernetes and all those things, Linux will be a best environment. And you go for containers,
Okay.
in that cases, Windows will be not a good It's not like Windows is not a good option, but Linux will be an easy choice in those containers. So it depends. It depends.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. So I think this is taking a lot of time for completion. So just give a try. Once you complete the deployment, if you simply refresh this number or this IP address, your VM will respond you back with a website which is hosted in it, an IAS website. There is an Apache server which is hosted in it. So that's the demo. Give a try and let me know if you get any doubts in the same. You can post in the group. You can comment out in the video as well. So I'm just winding this up. I'm just handing over it to the Mr. Kasam. You can take it over. And thank you all.
Thank you, Kishore.
Yep, thank you.
So guys, hope you have an informative session today again. No doubt. Like it was very with a live demo. It always useful to attend such things, like going through a document and having things live. It provides much difference. So I just wanted to give update you one thing, like for the coming Saturday, like for in the next weekend, we do have a session for plan for mastering Microsoft Azure storage, and you can see over the screen. It will be presented by Mr. Afzal Ahmad Zishan. He's a Microsoft Azure MVP. He's an author for like books like Azure Storage, Redis Catch, and with back publishers. He's also a speaker. So we welcome on board Mr. Afzal Ahmad. He's not joined today, but as all the community members are here, so I'm just on behalf of everyone, I'm welcoming him. We will surely catch him in coming weekend. So on Saturday, but the only thing is the timing is evening 6 p.m. It is not on 11:30. It is just because like he's not from India. So as per his timing, we have to settle in the timing, and I thought like 6 p.m. evening would be a great thing. Like it would be comfortable for everyone. So it is not too late evening and not too early morning. So it will be from 6 p.m. IST to 7 p.m. IST, both on Saturdays and Sunday. So Saturday is mastering about Microsoft Azure storage, and Sunday it would be again from Afzal Ahmed Zishan about the serverless Azure functions. So please remember the both 18th and
So
19th of August.
I
The
got it.
timing is
Just come back to our slides and we have.
Sure. Sorry to disturb you in that point, at this point in time. I have a question.
Yeah,
My name is
exactly.
Dakshina.
I'm handing over to Kishore again. I'm handing over to Kishore again. Give me 1 minute. I just want to complete this. I will give back the control to Kishore so that he
Yeah.
can give the demo and you can ask the question. So it is just I
Hello.
wanted to update like for 18th and 19th. It is 6 p.m.
Hello.
and the topic. Yes, go on, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like no, you as you told me that there will be the replication and the availability can be said. Say for example, I have a website which runs 24/7 and which includes the application and also the database. Okay.
Okay.
Where can I just set up a application wherein I have an application server in US East and the other application server in US West, and can I tie up these two into a load balancer?
Yeah, it is possible.
Okay. So
You
why?
need to use
Because that.
different routes in there.
Okay. So what need to be used?
You need to use some routes in there for routing the traffic to a
Okay.
specific endpoint. So here the load balancer can be the endpoint. So you have to use routes in there.
Route 53 can be used, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, we can also set up the availability and the replication for the database, wherein if something goes wrong in any one of the region in the for the database, that could be replicated within a span of time in the other region.
Yeah, that is possible.
Okay. So this can be achieved with a very minimal data loss, right?
Yeah, your replication, it will help you for minimal data loss. But when you go for the recovery site vault or on something like that, there the
Mm-hmm.
data loss will be large when compared to the replication.
Oh, so DR will be is the what you're talking about, is it?
Yeah.
There will be a data loss, is it?
No, data loss will be like just 1 or 2 seconds of data loss.
Okay.
When compared to
Oh,
other backup services, the
mm-hmm.
redundancy will be the best option for you. The data loss will be very less.
Because as you know that customers would not be agree to this the 24/7 availability they would be asking. So what I just wanted to know is like say the application is in the one application server and one database server is in the east, and the other application server if it can be set in west or a central region of yours. So the availability of that application will be 24/7 even if the region goes down, and the database can be choose with the replication, right? So that the online replication will be happening with a minimal latency and the data loss.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thanks so much, Kishore.
Thank you.
So any more question, guys? Hello.
No, Kasam.
Okay. So thank you again, all of you, for joining the session. Let's meet up the coming weekend on Saturday, Sunday evening 6 p.m. for Azure storage and Azure functions. Thank you, Kishore, for giving out your time, valuable time. We'll be publishing this video over the YouTube channel. Kindly subscribe the channel and hit on that bell icon so that you will be notified for all published videos. Thank you.
Yep.
Have a nice weekend. Thank you. And advance happy Independence Day to all of you.
Yeah, same
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. Wish you same to you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Kasam?
We'll start in next 2 minutes. We'll just wait for more 2 minutes. I know it's 11:30 sharp.
Hello, Kasam?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Hello.
posted a query like where would be, do you have any kind of page or something where we could
Yeah,
post the queries?
I will share a form. I will share a form.
Yeah,
You are there in my WhatsApp, the Azure WhatsApp group, right? Dear Azure group,
yes,
right?
yes,
Yes, yes. I
yeah,
will. Give me some time. I will put on two URLs, one for feedback, and the
yeah,
other one would be queries. So you there you can just select any of the webinars which are happened. You can just go on drop down, select the webinar,
yeah,
and post on the queries. That will be posted to the
yes,
speakers, and you will get back with the answers.
yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, bye.